That really is the discussion of VTLs. They're very powerful tools. FLDs and VTLs are two very powerful tools that we'll no doubt spend a lot of time talking about. They're very important. They are crucial to Hurst's principles. They are used in everything that Sentient Trader does. Let's have a quick summary of FLDs now, and then I want to tie the two together and bring them together. We spoke last week about FLDs, and remember, FLD is simply the price movement displaced by half a cycle's wavelength to the right, in other words, into the future, and we derive three pieces of information from an FLD. When price crosses an FLD, we get confirmation of a peak or a trough, depending on which direction the cross is. We also are able to project a target because from the cross we are able to, here is price moving downwards, crossed the FLD, we're able to, from the crossing point, we're able to project a target there to the next trough. And the first piece of information, of course, is that the crossing was a confirmation of that peak over there. And the third piece of information FLD gives you is that where the FLD peaks in the future is where you expect there to be a trough in price in the future. So those are the three important pieces of information an FLD provide you with. Of course, the VTLs, we know, provide us with one important and very timeless piece of information, which is confirmation of a trough or a peak. How does Sentient Trader actually use this information? Well, one of the issues with performing analysis using Hurst's cyclic principles is that there are many things to think about and concentrate on. When you're performing an analysis, you're analyzing the current status of up to 11 cycles. Let's see how many cycles do we have here. 3, 6, 9, 10. So this chart has 10 cycles on it. You're considering all kinds of things. You're having to consider the FLDs and the VTLs of all of those cycles potentially. Let me draw those things onto here to give you an idea of the kind of complexity that Sentient Trader is resolving for you. Here are all the VTLs and all the FLDs that we're currently working with, including FLD pause zones, which are the result of multiple FLD patterns, which we spoke about last week. So now all those FLDs and all those VTLs provide you separately with pieces of information about your analysis. Digesting that and processing it, I've got to tell you, is a really, really complex task. It's not so much a matter of sort of multitasking, it's a matter of holding several simultaneous, often contradictory and contrasting ideas in your head at one time. I absolutely love performing an analysis using Hurst cyclic principles because it is it's a puzzle, it's a brain teaser of note, holding all those pieces of information in your mind at the same time and trying to combine them into a really simple result. That is why I developed Sentient Trader to help me do it. I started thinking, okay, there must be an easier way of doing this instead of trying to do this myself. Let's get some software to do it. I didn't think it would take me 5 or 6 years to get to the point where the software was doing it, but anyway, there we go. I'm very glad I did it because now the software does do it. But nevertheless, how do you still understand what the software is doing? And that is really simple, because at the end of the day, you want to know two pieces of information. You want to know when should I buy and when should I sell. Or perhaps it's only one piece of information. You need to know, should I buy now or should I sell now? At any rate, you don't need 100 pieces of information. You need 1 or 2 pieces of information. So how do you do that? Well, Sentient Trader builds what's called a multiple FLD pattern projection box for each and every cycle. Okay? So if we're trading the 40-day cycle, as we are, as we've spoken about doing on this chart, then you will notice that Sentient Trader takes all of that information. That includes the FLDs, the multiple FLD patterns, and the VTLs, and it combines all of that information into 2 projection boxes. There are always 2 of them that indicate the current leg of a particular cycle, in this case the 40-day cycle, and the next leg, and that is always the situation. Let me show you what this box is doing. The current leg, as you can see, is a downward leg going down to a green box, which represents a buy zone, and it started at this peak over here, and it is indicating price is expected. The current leg is a price movement down to this box over here. Okay, that is the current leg. there are always two boxes. One is the current leg, and the next one is the next. What is the next leg? The next leg is this move up into this box. Okay? So, when you're considering trading, of course, you are, if it is still early days, you might be interested in the current leg, but you're most likely interested in the next leg. We're not really interested in what will happen after that. It might move down, it might move flat, it might move down sharply. We're not interested. For now, we're interested in only the very next leg of this cycle that we are trading, which is the 40-day cycle. And so, in this particular instance, we would say, well, price came right into this target box over there. And so, therefore, I think the next leg of this projection is probably playing out. In other words, price is moving up to this level. So you might think, oh, that's great. That means price is going up to the middle of this box. Well, it might go up to the middle of the box, but it might only go up to the bottom of the box. So a move up to the bottom of the box could be a rather disappointing, not very positive move. And why does Sentient Trader create a box like that? Well, it has combined all the information from all the FLDs, all the VTLs, and the multiple FLD patterns, and it has created this projection for you. And those projections are uncannily accurate. One way of looking at them is simply to look at the chart. Another way of looking at them is to read about them. You can read about them. You go to View, Show Analysis Summary Panel, and you can have a look at the summary here, and let me read a bit of it to you. If we scroll down, it says here, the current FLD pattern projection. Okay, it says price has risen over the past 2 bars in an otherwise downward price movement in a downward FLD pattern. It is possible that the first sequence of the FLD pattern has already been fulfilled. What did I say a moment ago? I said, well, possibly price has already finished this part of the pattern. That's what that means. By the low of 1134.5 on the 12th of September, which would indicate that the second upward sequence of the pattern is now in progress. That's exactly what I was saying a moment ago. The first FLD pattern sequence projects a price movement down, that's the first one, to a target of 1144 by about the 13th of September, and might still in fact be in progress. And might still in fact this sequence, might still if in fact the sequence was not fulfilled, it was 2.5% short. What does that mean? It means that price missed coming all the way down to this target over here by an amount of 2.5%. Okay, so Sentient Trader says this move might be over, but there's no confirmation yet. Until there's confirmation, it won't declare it to be over. All right, the second FLD pattern sequence projects a price movement up to a target of 1261. That's the center of this target box, 1261, by about the 20th of September. Okay, so that's all very interesting information, but now what about trading it? Well, Sentient Trader does that for you as well. If you click on this trading box, you can see here, it says here, expecting next wave 1 with a shorter underlying trend of 0 suggests a long trade. In other words, we would buy and go long with a profit potential of 10.7%. Because of leverage, that's 107% trading with full leverage, and it's considered to be a valid potential trade, and so the trade is being considered. Then what Sentient Trader does is it considers 4 separate trades, and I will come back to this next week because it's time for us to begin wrapping up for today. I'll come back to the 4 separate trades, but it considers a trade. Remember I said that FLDs and VTLs are used to make trading decisions as well as to make analysis decisions, and so Sentient Trader makes 4 separate possible trading decisions. One is based upon an appropriate FLD. It says here, trade 1, immediate FLD, last close has recently closed above the FLD, considering an immediate entry above the most recent high. It works out the target levels, it works out the stop loss. At the end of its whole thought process, it says this results in a potential to risk ratio of 1.9 to 1. This PR ratio is too low, and so Sentient Trader is cancelling the setup of this trade. Okay, Sentient Trader will only take very high profit trades. You can adjust that in your you can adjust it on a per chart basis by going to Trading Settings, Advanced, and you can adjust your minimum profit potential to trade. You can see it's 20% at the moment, and your minimum profit risk ratio, I have set at 2%, which is what Hurst recommended. You could, if you like, change that minimum profit risk ratio to 1.5% or make it 3%, which means you would be taking only the very best, most profitable trades. That's up to you in terms of what trades you want to take. 2% is the default, and that is the recommended value. So Sentient Trader is not taking a trade in this situation, and you'll see that if we scroll down on the summary, it says, scroll down the trading page, it has rejected every single one of those trades because of a low PR ratio. And so that is because I mentioned now that this move up, this projection box extends far downwards. So yes, price is going to move up into this area, but it's not expected to be a very positive move. It might surprise us, it might suddenly bounce up, something else might be happening, but we're not very bullish about this move at the moment, although of course we do require a price move up to take place at this time. Okay, so I think that really covers my discussion about VTLs and FLDs. Let me now deal with, there were a few questions made right at the beginning of our session, and so let me try and answer those. And if you have any other questions, please pop them into the chat window. Let me turn on my video and connect with you again. It makes it a little more personal. Okay, there you go. You can see me, if you can. It's a dubious pleasure, I know, but you can see me as I speak to you a little more personally about some of these things. Paul is the first person to have asked a question. He asked whether we would consider including in future ST upgrades the dominancy envelope. In fact, the answer to that question is that the dominancy envelope, which Hurst spoke about, is already included in the software, but we don't call it the dominancy envelope. The reason for that is because Hurst chose the dominant cycle on the basis of a rather spurious condition. If you have a look at his work, particularly in Hurst Cycles course, what was the dominant cycle? The dominant cycle was really the cycle that visually, to him, looking at the chart, appeared to be most dominant. When developing Sentient Trader, I had to find a way of actually defining the dominant cycle on a more mathematical basis, if you like. What is the dominant cycle? When you're analyzing 50 years worth of data, or some people have performed analyses on the Dow Jones Industrial Average going back to 1898. So you're looking at, well, how many years is that? That's 113 years worth of data. What is your dominant cycle in that chart? When you're analyzing a 1 minute bar chart and you are looking at a week's worth of data, perhaps, what is the dominant cycle and therefore the dominant channel? Sentient Trader uses a really rather simple process which it uses to calculate what the dominant cycle is, and that is it needs to be able to find clear evidence of strong troughs of 4 strong troughs of a particular cycle. And so it finds it calls the dominant cycle the longest cycle, for which it can find 4 strong and clear troughs of that particular cycle. That was the result of quite a lot of testing different ideas, and that proved to be the most effective. And choosing the dominant cycle is very important in terms of performing your phasing analysis. The first stage of the phasing analysis is phasing analysis entry, and so your phasing analysis entry, you need to choose a dominant cycle, and you need to choose a very sensible dominant cycle in order to perform your phasing analysis entry correctly. And so the software therefore chooses a dominant cycle on the basis of that. Now Hurst spoke about what he called the dominant cycle envelope, which is also sometimes called the dominant channel, and in Sentient Trader they are indeed described as channels, and you can plot channels on your chart. So here we go, looking at this chart. Let me zoom all the way out. How do you know which cycle is the dominant cycle? As a matter of interest, if you go to view show analysis summary panel, you go to the top of the summary.